than a couple of dramas. You mentioned Toprak Razgatlioglu dusting himself down after coming down at the Geert Timmer curve. Well, Tom Sykes didn't complete a full lap at racing speeds, let's say, and Garrett Gerloff also going down. So a couple of riders with work to do over the course of race number one, which is sure to be entertaining, if not just for the fact that those riders have got to come through the field. But up at the head of the lineup, look no further than Jonathan Rea, looking to bounce back from race 2 at Donington Park at the start of this month. A 30-point swing as he crashed out from the lead. 22 points, as I said, lost over the course of that UK round to his main title rival, Toprak Razgatlioglu.
Yeah, and certainly for Jonathan, he'll know that he crashed out of the race lead, so at least for him it was still able to look at it as being a strong performance, but he'll know that giving up points like that you can't afford to do to a rider in form, and Toprak's certainly in form. Jonathan Rea's form isn't too bad either. There's only 2 points adrift as it is right now, and he's at his favourite track in the calendar.
Yes, no doubt about that. Statistically, Jonathan Rea within touching distance of becoming the first rider to reach 450 career points at a single venue, more than likely to do so this afternoon. 441 points scored by Jonathan Rea here in Assen alone. 12 times a winner at this circuit, and that's a match for Carl Fogarty's record number of victories at a single circuit.
Yeah, and certainly for Jonathan, he'll expect to be able to add to that tally this weekend. He's been fast all the way through the weekend. If you think back to yesterday afternoon in the free practice 2 session when the track temperatures came up, he was really strong, but it was also in that session that a lot of riders struggled with their tyre choices. The information they gathered from that session is going to be crucial in what they decide to do in today's race.
Toprak Razgatlioglu, our 2021 championship leader. Only 4 race starts for him here in Assen. Compare that to Jonathan Rea, who's got 11 race weekends completed here. But as far as Razgatlioglu is concerned, really toe-to-toe with Rea at Donington Park last time out. 3 wins in his last 4 races, taking the championship lead, and he salvaged this one as well as he possibly could to get up onto the front row.
Yeah, this is the Super Pole crash, just a bit unstable on the run into that GT chicane. He was behind his teammate Andrea Locatelli at the time, trying to make the move, and it's a little bit too easy to have the incident that Toprak had in that corner, and he was at least able to remount, come away with second on the grid, and even though we would have left the team with a little bit of a racing hard at this moment, he's able to give them a good chance for today's race. A little bit of stark contrast to the other Yamaha rider, Garrett Gerloff, has a crash in the Super Pole session, didn't get back out to set a lap time. He starts in the back of the grid, shows just how well Toprak's been able to salvage it.
The one thing that Toprak can't afford is a blip, knowing the consistency of Jonathan Rea. And for Razgatlioglu, consistency's been the basis of his challenge towards the title this season. Only off the podium 3 times in 12 races that we've had in 2021.
Yeah, the one thing for Toprak is he's been able to show that week in, week out, it doesn't matter where we go, he's been able to be strong. And for him, he'll also know the importance of, if the weather is good, if the conditions are good, he needs to finish on the podium, because as we get towards the end of the season, when we go to the likes of Magny-Cours and you're at the risk of having bad weather conditions, it's never really been conditions that Toprak's gone the best in. So certainly for him, he wants to make sure he's able to take advantage of good conditions like this.
Third in the 2021 series standing, Scott Redding, but already 66 points back from the points leader. This time last year, incidentally, he was only 10 points down. So after 2 consecutive weekends without a podium, he slipped dramatically out of contention for the title as things stand.
Yeah, as it is right now, Scott knows the importance of being able to come away from today's race by picking off points on his rivals, and he knows he needs to start winning races again. He's had 7 races without a podium, the longest run he's had since jumping onto a superbike, and certainly for Scott, he'll know that with a deficit of 66 points to Toprak, he can't afford to give him any more.
And that's a lot of race wins and a lot of misfortune that's going to have to befall both Razgatlioglu and Rea. It looks a long shot at the moment.
Well, the one thing about it is it's one bad race for both of those guys, and suddenly they're a lot more within range if Redding's able to come away with big points.
Here is Garrett Gerloff as we continue our way through the pit boxes. The Texan settled for 2022 with Yamaha after a single season contract extension was confirmed earlier this week. And, well, it was initially supposed that it might end those rumours about him joining MotoGP, but potentially still an option for Garrett Gerloff.
Journalists still like to create some rumours. I think the one thing for Gerloff is he knows he's in a good position for next year anyway, and this is a big moment he had through the GT chicane in free practice 1 yesterday behind Taddy Mercado. But certainly for Gerloff, the pace is there, the potential's there, everything's there in place for him to be able to show just how good of a top line rider he is. But unfortunately, this morning in the Super Pole session also showed he's still got those rough edges. Had a crash through turn 1. There's a little dip through the track there. A bit of experience around Assen does tend to mean that a lot of riders avoid that. It's a bit like what happened at Donington Park into Goddard's, just trying to carry a little bit too much speed, too close to that inside line, and just caught him out. And for Garrett, he's going to have his work cut out for himself, not only in this race, but especially the 10-lap Super Pole race tomorrow.
Yes, how many times have we said this season the word unfortunately followed by the name Garrett Gerloff? I think we've said it time and time and again, but the pace he's shown on Fridays has very rarely been borne out in actual results over the course of a weekend. Just saw Michael Ruben Rinaldi there, the Italian, who scored just 12 points at Donington Park last time out, very much back to earth with a bump after what was his career best weekend at round 3 in Misano. Similar story for the likes of Axel Bassani. None of the Ducati runners went well at Donington Park, and by and large they did go well in Misano. So back to form this weekend thus far.
Yeah, Bassani's done a good job since jumping onto that bike as well as a rookie. He's looked pretty solid, hasn't looked out of place at any round so far.
In towards Alex Lowes, who will be starting from P5 here today. Put in a couple of strong laps actually to try and get on terms, and there's not too much to choose between the top 5 on the grid, who are also incidentally top 5 in your championship.
Yeah, not too much to choose between them all the way through this season as well. We've seen each of the top 5 very strong at different rounds, and Lowes no exception to that. We saw at the start of the season really good performances in Aragon and also Estoril, and this weekend and Assen, it's always a track where he's gone well in the past, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what tyre options are for everyone and see just what sort of an impact that makes as well. Interesting, Gerloff, the first rider to try and make his way onto the grid. He might well be doing 2 siding laps here as well, just to make sure that everything's in order for him after that crash this morning.
Yes, of course, riders can come through until the pit lane is closed, and Garrett Gerloff seeing the green flag, making his way around. But remember, Gerloff will have his work cut out coming through from the back of the grid. Among the riders he's going to have to try and pass on his way through, this man, Chaz Davies, who will be lining up from 13th position. Again, not the kind of super pole that he needs. He's not renowned for single lap pace. But on a weekend where we've got the 2 factory Ducatis 3rd and 4th on the grid, Davies could have done with being a little bit further towards the front. Yeah, unfortunately for Chaz, we've seen it at different times in the past, just that 1 lap qualifying can be a bit of a struggle for him. He's at decent pace in the morning sessions in each day, but just dropped off a little bit in that Super Pole session, and now he needs to really make some good progress at the start of this race. The good news today is that even though the grid is very quite compact all the way through this weekend so far, once you're into a race, it does tend to stretch out an awful lot. Everyone's got good 1 lap pace. How many people actually have good 21 lap pace? Talk to me about tyres. Well, the tyres are going to be interesting. We've got lots of new options from Pirelli this weekend. The X tyre, obviously the super soft tyre, that's the tyre that we've tended to see used an awful lot during the races so far this season. 37 degrees track temperature means it should be in the operating window for it, but the unfortunate thing for the teams is there's an awful lot of corners around here that chew up the tyres, so maybe the X tyre can work for, as Scott Redding said, for 15 laps, but can it work for the last half dozen laps? And I think that's going to be an interesting one to see what everyone opts for. We also have new tyres on the front as well. They're the SC1 compound tyres, but here for Assen this weekend, there was a brand new front brought by Pirelli. Last time out in Misano, or sorry, 2 rounds ago in Misano, they brought out a new front tyre as well. So teams and riders have had an awful lot of options to try and play with this week. Are we looking potentially at a tortoise and hare type race where some riders are going to go for track position and the softest rubber available, and others are going to go and play the long game and try and come back into this race in the closing laps? Yeah, as it is right now, you'd expect Jonathan Ray to be out there on a harder tyre, maybe the SC0 rear tyre, whereas the likes of Toprak might be on the X tyre. Rinaldi's definitely going to try and use that X tyre, you'd imagine, and the same for a few other riders up and down that leading positions. Jonas Folger, he's got nothing to lose, maybe he tries the X tyre as well. Tom Sykes here on the number 66, now BMW's all-time record holder for race starts in World SBK, scored his 400th point for the manufacturer in Donington Park. 2 top 10 finishes aboard BMW machinery here in 2019. But Steve, BMW, we've talked about it already, a lot of different manufacturers up towards the head of the field, and all of them within the top 9 positions on the grid here today. It does look as though that BMW project has made a step forward in 2021. Real shame then for Tom Sykes that he didn't get to prove that pace in Super Pole earlier on today. Yeah, and we've seen Michael van der Mark we ride on board with now as well, the home hero. He's had problems as well so far this weekend. It seems that in free practice 3 they put a new engine into that bike, and then there were
suffering quite a lot of gremlins. We saw Van der Mark's frustration come to the fore. At least whenever it mattered in the Super Pole session, he was able to come away with that top 10 spot. It gives him a decent chance in today's race.
We're very much in contract negotiation times. Yamaha starting to lock down their riders for next season. The rest of the manufacturers are bound to follow pretty soon.
Yeah, Yamaha sorted for next year pretty much across the board. They want to keep Locatelli on board. Nozane looks like he's going to stay at GRT as well. Obviously, we saw that the news about Toprak last time out in Donington, and the news about Gerloff this weekend. But for Ducati, there's seats available, and there's a certain ex-Ducati MotoGP race winner available as well for them. So for the likes of Scott Redding, he'll know the importance this weekend of coming away with good results, because otherwise Ducati could well be putting in calls to the likes of Danilo Petrucci or a few other people and seeing whether they're available. BMW have gone around shopping for different riders. They've obviously got Tom Sykes as a free agent for next year, but the rumour is that there is an option in Tom's contract for him to remain with the team for next season. It just needs to be performance related. So whether that's this round, the next round, he needs to be in a certain position in the championship. So there are still certain seats to fall into place, but certainly over the next few rounds, you'd expect that to really start to fall into place.
Well, if it were related to Donington Park performance, that clause, then I think it would have already been activated, because Tom Sykes was certainly on form, as was this man, to be fair, Jonathan Rea. Just that end of his run of 34 consecutive point-scoring finishes and 11 podiums, coming to an end after that race 2 crash. But certainly this is the best possible venue for him to recover. He's never been off the podium at the Dutch round since joining Kawasaki. 12 consecutive top 3 finishes here in Assen.
Yeah, and for Jonathan, that form really has been the case for all the way through his career. He's gone really well at this track, knows it inside out. You certainly expect him to be able to add to that tally this weekend.
A look at the grid alongside Jonathan Rea, the front row, Toprak, Razgatlioglu and Scott Redding. Toprak very much the form man at the moment, really toe-to-toe, as I've said, with Jonathan Rea at Donington Park last time out. 3 wins in his last 4 races to take the championship lead, and only 4 race starts for him here in Assen, and none of them here with Yamaha, effectively foreign territory for him. But as I said at the top of this programme, Steve, if he leads the series after this weekend, surely he becomes the title favourite. Completing the front row, Scott Redding, track specialist in Assen, secured his last MotoGP podium here actually in 2016, and a couple of wins here in the 2019 British Championship as well. Certainly looking to recover that kind of form this weekend. Only 3 podium finishes, 2 wins from 12 races in 2021.
Yeah, it goes really well here at Assen, and he needs to go well here this weekend. Scott's been fast in the sessions as well, led the way in free practice 1, led the way this morning. You'd certainly expect him to be able to come away with decent points today, and you'd certainly expect him to be able to challenge Jonathan Rea for the race victory.
And as I was saying about Toprak, if he wins here, then Jonathan Rea is going to be up against it.
Well, I think for Jonathan, he knows that Toprak's going to be strong pretty much everywhere we go. The Yamaha has a great bike now, arguably the best all-round package on the grid. Toprak's full of confidence. For Jonathan Rea, though, he knows it's a full season. It's about what you do week in, week out.
Row 2 features Michael Ruben Rinaldi, Alex Lowes and Jonas Folger. Rinaldi never a top 10 finisher in 4 starts here in Assen, but he certainly has made a significant step forward since our last visit to this circuit. Now 3 times a race winner, of course, 2 of those victories on home ground in Misano just over a month ago. This will be his 90th Superbike start.
Yeah, and for Rinaldi, he says he works best when he's under pressure. And certainly he knows he's under pressure to make sure he can live up to the results from Misano a few rounds ago.
Alex Lowes back at the venue where he secured his first World Superbike podium back in 2014. Hasn't matched that in the 10 races he's ridden here since, but certainly stands a good chance of adding to that podium tally this weekend and to challenge for 3rd in the championship standings.
He had a podium on the Suzuki here, he had a pole position on the Yamaha, so he goes well here. But it's different whenever you're jumping onto a new bike at a track like this. This is his first time on the Kawasaki here at Assen.
32 career poles now for Jonathan Rea. 5 in a row at the start of 2021, and yet another watch to add to his collection. He's on almost double the score of anyone else in the Tissot Superpole Award, so certainly one-way traffic in that contest that comprises scores from both Superpoles and also Superpole races. Jonathan Rea will lead them away from P1. How about this for a shock merchant in the Superpole session? Jonas Folger lines up from P6, scoreless since race 2 in Aragon. The German retired from both feature-length races at Donington Park, and certainly would have hoped for a whole lot more than what he's managed so far after what were promising wildcard displays late last season.
Yeah, electronic gremlins in Donington Park meant that they didn't actually solve the issue until after the round. but basically its sensor was a miss for him, and that's why he didn't have the right feeling from the bike. So that was pretty much a write-off, but he's been on form this weekend.
Andrea Locatelli, Leon Haslam and Michael van der Mark lining up on row 3. Locatelli with 8 top 10 finishes in 12 races. He's quietly gone about his business in what's his first Superbike season. Consistency leaving him 11th in the championship standings, 34 points clear of fellow Yamaha debutant Kota Nazane.
Yeah, and Locatelli's looked good at different times through the course of this season. When the Yamaha works well, he's looked really good. As think back to Estoril especially, and he'll know this is a good opportunity for him today.
Leon Haslam, something of a track specialist here in Assen, won 5 races here over 3 years in the British Championship. Has only once finished outside of the points in 18 World SBK starts here. Picked up more than half of his 2021 points haul so far, last time out at Donington Park.
Yeah, he's been coming here for a long time. Leon Haslam, his World SBK debut was all the way back in 2003. Obviously raced in the Grand Prix paddock before that as well. So for Leon, lots of experience here at Assen. One of the few riders actually that's raced it on the old layout as well.
And the home hero back at what is undoubtedly his best circuit, Michael van der Mark, already waving to the crowd. We haven't got started yet. Secured his first career podium here in 2015. He's added 6 more since. 7 podiums in 10 starts at this venue, 4 in a row.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be able to add to that tally today, but certainly for Van der Mark, he always finds something a little bit extra whenever he's racing here at home, and it's a track that suits him. It's a track that suits the BMW as well. They've been strong all the way through the weekend. Tom Sykes was top 5 after the combined free practice sessions yesterday, so it does show that bike's working well here this week.
I'm glad the fans can't hear what you're saying about Magic Michael. Their man lining up from P9. Row 4, Alvaro Bautista playing peekaboo. I think that's the result of his recent holiday away with his kids. The most recent Assen winner is Bautista. The Spaniard did the double, of course, in 2019. The last victories of his 11-ride unbeaten run. Remember, 6th from race 1 in Imola, the closest he's come from Misano, rather, to the podium in 2021. And even then, he was almost 10 seconds off 3rd place. A lot of work to do today for Garrett Gerloff. 2nd place from race 2 at the UK round last time out. Best result of his 2021 season so far, only his 2nd podium finish of this campaign. This is his first race visit to Assen in World SBK, though that didn't seem to bother him too much in Donington Park, did it?
Yeah, and certainly for Garrett, he's going to expect to be able to make some progress in this race. You can see Eric Desains there as well, the president for YME down on the grid. And for Garrett, he's going to expect to be able to make a good start, pick off some riders, get himself into the points-paying positions in the first lap, and then just see what he's able to do. His tyre choice is going to be interesting to see if he takes a gamble. Well,
surely he's going to try and fight his way through the field as swiftly as possible and hope that it hangs on in there in the closing stages.
I think that's going to be the strategy, and certainly, as usual with Garrett Gerloff, he's going to be worth keeping an eye on all the way through this race.
Yes, so Gerloff will line up from P21. 10 places up ahead of him, lining up from P11, and alongside Alvaro Bautista will be Tito Rabat. All smiles for the moment at least, but just 5 points from his last 6 races, had a couple of retirements at Donington Park. Former Moto2 champion, of course, would have expected a whole lot more from World SBK than just 15th in the championship. Well adrift of the pack ahead.
Yeah, been a really tough start to his World SBK career, and adapting to that bike has been a challenge. Been a bit easier for some of the other rookies in the class.
Axel Bassani, the youngest rider in the field, but he celebrates his 22nd birthday today. One of the revelations of this 2021 campaign, particularly in Misano. 47 points on the board from 4 rounds. Few were predicting that kind of scoring before this season got underway. Alongside Rabat and Bassani, Alvaro Bautista on the 4th row. Then it's Chaz Davies lining up from row number 5. Down in 13th position on the grid is Davies. Never a race winner here in Assen. In fact, he's only managed 5 podiums in 16 starts here, but he really is in desperate need of a big weekend. Non-scoring return in Misano and a best result of 7th at Donington Park. An experienced hand, as you saw previously, set for his 250th race start here. Alongside him, Isaac Viñales from P14 scored 6 points at the season opener in Aragon. He's added just 2 points since. 2 seconds a lap off the leader's pace throughout the UK round. His debut Superbike campaign continuing to prove a challenge. Great to have Tati Mercado and MIE Honda back on the grid this weekend. They took part in the season opening round in Aragon, but have sat out the 3 subsequent events while they tried to regroup and make forward progress. Well, Mercado's qualified up in 16th position on the grid today, although it must be said that with Sykes and Gerloff among the riders behind him, that isn't necessarily indicative of a major step forward. We'll see what Mercado can manage over the course of the race. We know he's more than capable of being a top 10 runner, just a question of what that package might offer him. Among the riders ahead of him, if he wants to get into the points, is Luca Mayas, who lines up 15th. Frenchman who made his Superbike debut here in Assen in 2016, even got to lead a lap of race 2 in what were mixed drying conditions. 2 top 10 finishes for the Frenchman last time out at Donington Park, and the former Supersport world champion certainly does appear to be gradually gaining in momentum. He completes the 5th row of the grid. We've already seen Chaz Davies and Isaac Vinales. Great to hear a little bit of the fans here in Assen as well. It's 2/3 capacity for the seated areas, and the rest of the stands, I understand, are not in operation over the course of this weekend, but such is the capacity of that grandstand along the Geert Timmer curve that we can have up to around about 35,000 people in per day. So great to see the stands with crowd once again, and looking forward to them cheering on their man Michael van der Mark in particular. Continuing on through the grid then, and on row number 6, this is Andrea Mantovani, 26 years of age, former Superstock 1000 regular, of course, 5th place in Assen, the best result of his full campaign in 2016. 4 seasons in the Italian Superbike Championship. These days he's plying his trade in Moto E. Alongside him and completing the 6th row of the grid will be Kota Nazane, making his first race start since Misano, now recovered from a fractured finger on his right hand.